Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, for this lovely evening with our Problem Solver Politics live stream. I am joined by none other than the illustrious, the wise, the sage, the youthful, the extraordinary, Cody the Oracle.
Now stop. You're too kind. Hey, how's everyone doing?
Yeah. So, I had a great weekend. It was pretty cool. Fortunately, uneventful on my end. Cody, how was yours?
The weekend. Yes, my weekend was, it was there, man. It happened.
All right. Much better weekend than we can say for, shall we count them? So, Cody, what's going on, man? Hit me.
All right, cool. I was, looking for something else. We can just get started right now.
Let's do it. Let's jump right in.
Yes, we'll jump right.
Hey, which thing we're going to talk about first? It's been crazy. I mean, okay. So, should I just run down the list?
Well, I mean, there's really one thing I want to talk about a little bit here, and then we're just going to...
And then go the rest? Okay, cool. Hit it. Go numero
this
uno.
Is just that there's, of course, always nonsense going on around the country and around the world. I think, what was it? I won't get too far into it. But anyway, things are happening, and they've been happening for centuries in this world. But one thing that may never happen is Joe Biden announcing who his VP is actually going to be.
Dude, that's true, man.
This is really interesting. A Politico reported that Joe Biden said, and I think actually Joe Biden did say that he was going to announce his VP the first week of August. Well, he didn't. We're now in the second week of August. If you want to be very uncharitable, the third week of August, but
yeah.
I would consider it the second week of August.
Yeah.
And no VP nomination. Now, I do have an article here from the Times of New York, which is what no one calls it, the New York Times, saying that Biden's VP pick is said to be imminent. Joe Biden advisors are planning an announcement for the middle of the week as his search concludes. People briefed on the selection process said. I have to say, I am at the point with most things in the media now when I read that I know a guy who was definitely there is like just not cutting it as far as evidence for me anymore. So who knows what this means? All I know is Politico said that Joe Biden, I would imagine Joe Biden was prepped of his own VP talks. Actually, I don't know. Maybe Joe Biden isn't. Maybe Joe Biden is briefed after the fact of what his VP talks are. But he said he was going to name the first week of August. Well, came and went, didn't. Now, in a alternate parallel universe Politico reported on, he actually did name his running mate on the first day of August. It was Kamala Harris, and he gave a quote. Now, that never actually happened, but Politico was ready to tell you that it could have potentially happened, but it didn't. So here we are today, and I see this tweet today, and I think it's hilarious. every now and then something will be going on crazy, or people will be paying attention to flight logs. Like, I remember, a big one was, for example, when they were locking down Wuhan early on with the coronavirus lockdowns. People were showing tweets of flight logs of planes flying from Wuhan to America or Canada, or vice versa, from America or Canada to Wuhan. Like, oh my God, tracking that. I think there's been a couple other times they've tracked flights out. Well, now we have officially the Joe Biden VP watch is at the point now where people are just eyes open for anybody flying in to Wilmington, Delaware. And it appears that a private jet took off from South Bend heading to Wilmington, Delaware.
Whoa.
Now,
wait a second.
You have to imagine
South Bend.
You have to imagine that there's more than one rich person who lives in South Bend and one rich person who lives in Delaware, which I guess technically Buttigieg isn't that rich, but it had a bunch of people wondering what could be going on. Now, this led to a bunch of people posting. I'm trying to just get the quick confirmation on that as well, but a couple other pictures of flight logs of private flights that were recently heading to Delaware or neighboring areas, some other parts around where other cabinet members are. Now,
so who's flying in from South Bend, Cody?
Well, obviously, the implication would be Pete Buttigieg, but here's the thing.
Is he identifying as a woman of color now?
Well, I don't,
because I thought that was a stipulation.
I don't think he'd be named VP now.
But you could do that now.
But my larger point to this is, the reason why I want to bring this up and elaborate on this, the only reason why is because it really goes to show something that I've been seeing going on with this, how I feel personally as well. Dude, when is it going to happen? People are at the point now where they're watching planes flying into Delaware. Like, finally is something happening? And I understand the VP is the most important thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, one, we're talking about Joe Biden, who Joe Biden himself has said, well, my VP better be ready to take over because you never know what's going to happen. I am like 80. It's like, that's not what like random, people on the radio are saying. That's what Joe Biden is saying. Well, I'm old, so they better be ready. So, yes, people are kind of a little bit more interested in who his VP may be. And it's kind of to the point now where they're grasping at anything. I mean, why has it taken this long? And I've heard a couple, I don't want to say conspiracy theories, but basically that there has been a couple leaks thrown out the last couple, there's the Kamala Harris leak by Politico. Here's the article again. Biden pledges to choose his running mate in the first week of August, which came and went with no running mate. He said on Tuesday, this is Tuesday as of the last week of July, that he would choose his running mate the first week of August. Yeah. He pledged in March to select a woman as vice president, and he has kept silent in any speculation who he's thinking. I'm going to have a choice in the first week of August, and I promise I'll let you know when I do. Now, the absolute absurdity and the grasping of straws of what the hell's going on with Joe Biden and his VP had another pretty interesting point, I thought, a couple days ago.
Okay. When
I remember it was Fox News reported that Joe Biden definitely knows who he's going to announce as his VP. Yeah. And he's going to say it soon. Okay. And I want to play this clip because this clip was someone else.
Pure gold? No,
just something else. I guess spoiler. It's a whole lot of actually, double spoiler. I got to cut my music off. But I'll play it. This is the groundbreaking clip, and this isn't breaking news, mind you, it's from 2 days ago. It's not breaking, but groundbreaking clip of Joe Biden confirming he selected a running mate. Let's play this. See what this groundbreaking journalism found.
You picked a running mate yet? Yeah, I have. You have? Who is it? Who is it? You.
Oh, that was lame.
Okay, so he didn't know the follow-up was coming, but he did answer with a direct yes, he had.
One more time. Listen closely.
President, have you picked a running mate yet? Yeah, I have. You have? Who is it? Who is it? You.
Lovely. I just have seen for now.
That's
Dave,
actually kind of funny.
Seeing that, that's what I mean. It was like he was messing with the guy. You picked your VP. Yeah, it'll be George Clooney. Shove off. Like what is this? But it has gotten to the point where people are actually kind of like, yeah, what is going on? I know it's not that fun talking about Joe Biden because I don't know why. There's a bunch of stuff going on with Joe Biden that I think it's kind of fun talking that people just ignore. But it's getting a bit ridiculous, man. We're coming on like 84 days to the election, and he hasn't named who his VP is. Well, sorry.
Well, I was just going to. The other thing that really, for me, is troubling about all of this, Cody, is that not having one selected by now really shows one of two things. Either the conviction is not there, and what kind of leadership model is successful without conviction and absolute trust between you. I mean, there's been plenty of pairs where even though they weren't best of friends, they still had functional leadership. But I'm just saying, it shows either a lack of conviction or else B, that he's literally waiting for something to go away, or waiting. And like Dr. Seuss says, the waiting place is just not a good place to be in. You know what I'm saying? Not.
Do you mean like along the lines of also that there's like a thing where if he had picked his VP like 2 months ago and he's like, this is who I'm running with, as opposed to now it's going to be like, well, like that's what's left.
Well,
like,
here's the deal.
It's
never a good sign because it can only come out two ways. Either he's trying to be a politician and stick his finger to the wind and see which way the wind is rolling and then make his final decision and then announce it. At which point we'll all think, okay, so this is a transactional vice president, not a someone with whom you actually trust the country because you're convicted that he's a good person or convinced that he's a good person or she's a good person. I don't know. It's just bad. And it also makes us think, gosh, if this is how you run your vice president, your candidacy for vice president, how bad is your presidency going to be?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, if you can't just make a decisive decision about who's going to be your freaking running mate, then how are you going to handle war in the South China Sea? You know what I'm saying?
That's a little
what?
Ridiculous or absurd, I guess. But
how is that ridiculous or absurd?
I guess you know what,
Showing
dude?
you can't run your candidacy well makes us think
man?
you wouldn't run your presidency well.
Any man that spends more than 45 seconds picking his cereal is not a real man. It's like one of those arguments where it's like, dude, maybe he has a good reason. My larger point is, less to like maybe Biden's not a strong enough candidate for it. It just speaks to me more of his confidence in his choices, that is his capability of a leader. Like I said, there's one thing where you name somebody early on and say, this is the person I'm going to have by my side when I go into this election. There's that, and there's, well, it's like September, and I guess this is who's like, it just feels like he doesn't like him. It feels like he doesn't want any of these people as VP, which is unfortunate because he declared way back, as they mentioned in March, I believe, that it will be a woman, which I guess, which I've always thought was the dumbest thing to do because, well, I mean, I personally, a lot of people pointed out rightfully, that's just strategically dumb for many reasons.
Yeah.
One reason I think it's hilarious is that like it lessens the impact of it. Like imagine if there was a field of like 15 names they were discussing, and then he chose someone like, wow, it'd be the first. It would be the first.
He should release his list like Donald Trump released his list of all the judges he would appoint.
But he didn't release the list of what his VP would be, so it's not the same. It's like something different.
I know he missed the opportunity, man. He should have made a reality show.
He should post
out
his
of it.
list like Coachella post before the festival of who's going to be playing there. I guess, man. But like,
no, but think about it. Like, you release the list. I mean, the Obamas are freaking movie producers at Netflix now. They'd probably make a little mini series out of it. You know, choosing the Veep.
Well,
she
what
came
they've been
from
doing
a small town in Northern California, raised by wealthy professors. She grew to be the biggest cop in California. Now will Joe Biden choose her as VP? This episode, we explore the potential vice presidential candidacy of Kamala Harris. California's top cop. See, dude, like there could be like an episode for each one of these people. I think there's been a missed opportunity here, Cody. And be honest, you were a little bit excited to see that episode based upon that voiceover. You got to say something, Cody. You can't just shake your head at it. I thought that was amazing, man.
Oh, dude, just blown away. Speechless, man.
So, I do have to say, though, that I was kind of thinking as I watched that video, as much as I don't like Joe Biden, I do kind of feel bad that I shouldn't say I feel bad, but how annoying must it be that you can't even go on a freaking bike ride? You know what I'm saying? Without Fox News staking out the spot. Whoa. That you're going to go by. It's like, no wonder only the cream of the crop rises to the top, but so does the scum. I mean, this is the reason why we only have, you know, like average, good, solid people don't want to be involved in public service because you can't even go on a freaking bike ride with a mask on without Fox News chasing you down, hollering at you, who's your VP? You know what I'm saying? And he's probably getting it from both ends of the spectrum right now. MSNBC following around, Fox News following around. That's got to be hecka annoying, dude.
I'd imagine.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. What do you think about this, bro?
It's ridiculous, man. I love to listen to some of the wording in this New York Times article. This cracks me up, man.
Hit it.
Biden himself said he was going to name his. This is one thing's great. Biden himself said that he was going to name his VP the first week of August. So now we hear that. Well, Mr. Biden's political team is prepared to roll out plans for several of the finalists, and he's expected to announce his decision as soon as Tuesday. The more Democrats expected to come on Wednesday. The convention's on Monday of next 7 days from today, I believe. It'll be the convention, Monday through Thursday, I believe. It's just starting to get ridiculous to me. I mean, listen, they're still. So we're going through. It's the same names we have heard for the last 6 months. Yeah. Kamala Harris, who, by the way, Kamala Harris probably unfollowed Joe Biden's campaign Twitter, whatever that means. We'll go through that in a minute, too. That's some breaking news of the hour. They found that Kamala. But then I saw tweets being deleted claiming that. Who knows what's going on with that? So some of the strongest contenders have been Senator Kamala Harris, Susan Rice, the former National Security Advisor, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. Really? Is she still a strong contender? And Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, who met with Mr. Biden on August 2nd. But I think it's interesting. I don't think anybody was saying Gretchen Whitmer was on the short list before the daily briefing stuff happened with the COVID, which, I mean, she didn't. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Governor Whitmer did not find a way to intentionally start the coronavirus pandemic in America, but it definitely boosted her profile and helped her out. And then you also have Tammy Duckworth being considered, and Michelle Lujan Grisham of New Mexico, and Representative Karen Bass of California, and Val Demings of Florida. Like, how crazy is this? He's going to announce them tomorrow or the next day, but it could be 5 people. Now, Kamala Harris kind of felt like the comfortable, you can kind of settle in and say, yeah, okay, Kamala. It could be, right? Like,
yeah,
maybe it will be Kamala Harris, but now maybe not Kamala. We have a series of flights coming into. It looks like Joe probably has made his decision. I guess we can draw from this. But what it means, like, who knows? If I can't trust what Joe Biden says, well, who am I going to trust him when he's going to name his VP? Aides? Someone familiar?
Yeah.
By the way, whenever you hear sources familiar, it's I know a guy or girl.
Yeah.
But it's journalists speak for I know a girl who says, I know a guy who says this. I know a person, or I know someone who knows someone. That's another one that shows up there.
So we got 3 comments here that I would like to address. JFB, first off, thank you for the super chat, says he said it would be a woman, so progressives couldn't force him to pick Bernie.
That's a good point. It's a really good point.
It would shore up the suburban social progressive vote. Yes to all that. Although I don't think progressives could force him to pick Bernie. I just think that he didn't want to deal with the drama if he didn't.
That's a great point. I never thought of that. That's a great angle.
Yeah, and then what's a great angle that he couldn't force them, or he just didn't want to deal with the drama?
No, just the idea that it's like, yeah, this whole Bernie for VP thing, my running mate will be a woman, a.k.a. my running mate will definitely not be Bernie Sanders. I never thought of it that way, but that's really smart because strategically it made no sense.
Yeah.
Even if you just kind of want like the thrill of like having like a woman VP, like why not have it up in the air? Like, will it be Buttigieg? Will we go with the plain white guy? Oh no, it's like, like you said, kind of, not game it up, but if you want to make a show of it, make a show of it. But yeah, what it does do strategically is it gives him a very good out for just being like, no Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, instead of having to even say it, no one will even ask. No one has. Who's asking Joe Biden if Bernie will be his VP? No one, because, well, it's going to be a female. It's going to be a female VP, woman VP.
Yeah.
So it immediately eliminates, because people were saying, well, doesn't that kind of cut down the pool of potential VPs needlessly? Yeah. Maybe it does, but not needlessly, because it means Bernie Sanders. Dude, the DNC hates. Remember Chris Matthews when he thought Bernie Sanders was going to win, and he said that he compared Bernie Sanders supporters to Nazis on MSNBC.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. Like, there is a wing within the Democratic Party, dude, who do not want anything like that. And that's a really fascinating way of looking at it. It's a cheeky way of eliminating Bernie without drawing a lot of heat. That's smart.
And out-progressing the progressive. Nathan Butcher also says Biden already missing self-set deadlines. That is so true, man.
Yeah, it's like, why come out and like volunteer that? Why? And now I will say he did come out a few days later, I do believe, and say, well, now it's the second week. Like, I guess I got delayed a week. But it's just like, yeah, why come out and volunteer? It will be this week, and then just be like, you know what? It'll be next week.
Yeah. So, and there's a really interesting question here from the memory vault. Nate Dogg appears and asks, is Cody still saying Biden isn't going to make it to November? I do remember that was a theory of yours for a long time.
I still feel
Are you still standing by that?
I mean, as we approach November, increasingly less, right? But, I mean, I stand by that I felt that way. I was like, I'm wrong, But, I mean, it definitely did feel to me like it still feels weird that Biden's actually going to... God, I should have saved this tweet. Somebody said that they would, like... Somebody said, like, I don't care if Joe Biden does, like, eats children. I would still vote for him. And there's a part of me that's just like, dude, even if you feel that way...
Oh, no, you're talking about you're talking about the tweet where the woman said...
Not talking about that. It was like, it had, like, 2 likes, and I had just seen it a few minutes ago.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But my larger point is, I see people saying things like, yeah, but volunteering, I don't care if Joe Biden raped me. I'd still vote. It's like, one, why are you saying that, even if you feel that way? Like, just why, A? And then B, yeah, like nobody really seems that psyched about Joe Biden, and it's weird. It's not like there's nobody excited about any politicians that are. It's not even like there isn't people excited about Democratic politicians. But going with Joe, with just like the obvious, a clip resurfaced recently. It became controversial for some reason, but a clip resurfaced recently where with Robin Williams, rest in peace, who died 6 years ago, ragging on Joe Biden's mental faculties.
What?
Robin Williams has been dead for 5 or 6 years. When he was alive still, he was ragging on Joe Biden's mental faculties because he was the VP. Remember, Joe Biden, keep this in mind, Joe Biden was in the White House 11 years ago. I mean, like, it's been some time. It's not like nobody knows who this Joe Biden guy is. It's not like Joe Biden's one of those guys where you could say, yeah, he's always been a kind of kooky. He kind of has, but like, dude, it's been getting worse. Like, he's been getting kookier and kookier more and more. But just the whole, it always struck me as an odd candidate. It just always had struck me as a weird person to run. I mean, look with the protests going on today. Black Lives Matter protests started under Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
That's true.
They were in the White House when this started, and they had National Guard in Ferguson.
Wow.
Why is there a rush to put that back?
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I feel like some people got played and all like the Trump hate getting so out of control. It's kind of like one of those, like, what's the DJ Khaled meme? Like, I'm not going to try again. But it's like, congratulations, you played yourself. It's like some people, it's like, if you convince people that you have to, that anything's better than Trump, you end up with Joe Biden because anything's better than Trump. And you get a candidate nobody can stand. People are basically saying, well, look, I'm going to have to either, like, people are saying Biden and Trump are so awful, I'm going to fight against one of them for the next 4 years, so I'd rather fight against Biden. I've been seeing that argument. But it's, why are we here? Wasn't there a primary? People allegedly picked who they wanted to. It worries me a bit. I don't know. And then just seeing how this whole nonsense keeps dragging out.
And you do have to worry about what is that definition of anything. When you do have the attitude that anything is better than Trump, you better watch out because you might just end up with anything. And anything is a lot more broad subject matter than I think most people realize.
Well, I believe it is in people's best interest to give their government officials the fewest amount of outs for being awful as humanly possible. Yeah. Letting Democrats say, look, we're bad.
Constitution.
Look,
separation of
we're
powers,
bad.
baby.
Not even that. It just, when you let the people you elect turn around to you and say, hey, look, we're awful. We don't give you what you wanted us to do. We don't serve you, but you're stuck with us because they're worse. That if you just go, well, fine with me, I'll accept that. Then you're accepting the people you've elected to represent you, turning around and just telling them it's going to shove off, kick rocks.
Yeah.
You have to vote for me because he's worse. It's what it feels like with these people sometimes. Like, are you kidding me? The responses they give voters. Well, we got to get Trump out of office. So if that means that I can step on your face today,
of our lifetime.
So what? So be it. It's don't let these people do that stuff. Don't let them convince you that, well, I guess it's like an abused spouse. It's like, well, I'd love to leave them, but I know they still love me. It's crazy. You know what? They're right. I'd have it worse somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then maybe the difference about this is this. You don't get to vote your spouse away. You could vote these people away and replace them with someone that serves you better.
Yeah.
But instead it's, well, maybe Joe Biden will be okay, I guess. I mean, I don't like him. I never vote for him, and I actively campaigned against him for 9 months until he somehow won the primary. I don't know how. But yeah. I guess now I'll just, bite my tongue and give him what he wants. Oh, no. Sucks for Joe Biden and the Democrats. They just get what they want. And all the people who voted for him probably get nothing of what they wanted.
Yeah. And the other thing that's a little bit dangerous about that, too, is that when you use this, we have to get rid of the most dangerous president in the modern era. I mean, think how many people in America are like, gosh, the most dangerous president, man. Like, dangerous as who? As ex-dictator that crashed the economy, as socialist that killed 20 million of his own people, or ex-person that, well, none of that has happened. The world hasn't ended. The sky hasn't exploded. You know what I'm saying? We don't have concentration camps. We don't have, state-sponsored genocide going on. So it just makes it seem as if everything you say is hyperbolic. So, well, how do we know the features and benefits of a Biden presidency that you're touting? How do we know those aren't hyperbolic as well either? So you really paint yourself in a corner. And the weird thing too is, I mean, I kind of worry about this with both parties, but less on the Republican side, because I just see so much more like youth-ish. Well, they don't really have a deep bench on the Republican side either. But the weird thing now is that I kind of feel like this is the last death rattle of just a dying generation of thought. You know what I'm saying? The reason why boomers suck so badly and just ruined America wasn't because of their differences, but because of what they had in common. What both parties were willing to do together for 50 years, and what their silly, stupid orthodoxy has always been. And the internet has made it so that people don't want to get involved in politics because they don't want to have their entire history and Facebook history scrubbed for one tweet that might get them in trouble in the world of cancel culture. So the only people that are still in our political class are these old people whose youth was already past by the time the internet happened. But to me, all of this nonsense, this identity politics nonsense, is a complete and total just boomer and Gen X garbage fire. And the boomers, like, they're just dying, man.
You know what it reminds me of a bit too, for just like, as far as there's the boomer perspective. I wish I had saved this stuff, but take my word for it, it's real.
Okay.
But there was a series of, it was on design Twitter, people who do graphic design. Right?
Okay, cool.
And they were talking about how, just in general, not even graphic design, just even like computer programming, multiple anecdotes from people who are like, they went to apply for a job, and the job said you need to have 5 years experience minimum in software. And they'll be like, well, shucks, I only designed it 3.5 years ago, so I guess I don't have 5 years experience. Where there's these people that are in positions of power, and they're, the rubber stamper types, and they just hear, so what's the software they use? That's the one. They must have 5 years experience. That's the standard.
Yeah.
And then you come to learn, it's like, well, yeah, but like this didn't exist. Or there's like there's companies posting job listings where it's like, Google, like a big company, Google, like tools that they published 7 years ago, you must have 12 years experience. It's like, that didn't exist 12 years ago, because these people don't know about anything. It's a little microcosm, but you have these people that actually do the rubber stamping, the hiring. They decide how they're putting out these, job application or these job request forms and stuff, or postings that we're looking for. And they have an understanding of, I want someone with a lot of experience. They have no understanding of anything besides that. And then we see the same thing in politics. Well, my advisors told me that, so here we go. And it's just like some of these people come up with this, like, excuse me? What? Why are we doing this? And it gets back to, I think, that same line of thought, right? The line of thought where it's like, clearly experience is important. So clearly, if this software is important, you must have a minimum of X years experience in a software.
Yeah, but also
it's so removed from reality. But it's a line of thinking that's kind of pervaded through our government. I can definitely see, and just in general, I wonder if it's a bit like that. That feels like the baby boomer worldview clashing with the modern millennial worldview. Millennials are like, like software, like new tools come out all the time, and you can get good at them pretty quick. As opposed to, well, if that's the standard, you must have been trained on it for what, 10 years? It's like it didn't exist 9 months ago, man. It just works, so we're using it. But at the same time, though, it's like, what do you do to bring people up to speed on that? I mean, how do you explain to people you do realize that not everybody can have X amount of years experience in things that didn't exist?
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be like, I mean, it's...
And it challenges the rubric of, I've said this about the Mormon Church. I've said it about the U.S. government. The idea of a seniority-based business model that worked really, really well during the industrial era in America. And I think we should be more industrialized and bring more manufacturing back. But when it comes back, it will be different because our public education system is designed to pump out good factory workers and managers, not necessarily to pump out, innovative minds, shall we say. And in the predominantly factory worker, 9-to-5, 40-hour work week mindset that boomers were steeped in from 1945 all the way to basically 2000, the early 2000s, when the Democrats finally were able to get rid of almost all manufacturing in America. That was the frame of mind, was just seniority-based business model. But the only problem with that is when you have a seniority-based business model of leadership, what are you constantly getting? Old people in leadership. And when you look at the history of America, we weren't founded by a bunch of old people. There was tons of young people that got involved in that process as well. You know what I'm saying? You look at civil rights. You look at the foundation of the modern great American church, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Lots of young people involved there. When you're constantly only having old people in charge, in most generations, when there's not a big difference between one generation and the other, that's okay, because then you get the wisdom of the elders, and that's a really, really good thing, okay? But I submit that somebody who was born in 1935 probably had very similar formative years to somebody in 1945. And that person born in 1945 had probably a very similar upbringing and formative years as a person born in 55 or 65 or even 75. But the internet changed everything so much that the new world post 1996 or 1994 when the internet came out, it was probably 1996 when it was popularized. That world is so different. If you are relying now upon a seniority-based business model of leadership, you are destined to be run by idiots who don't know what's going on and need their grandchildren to fix their laptops. I remember this hilarious commercial for life insurance where it talked about how these grandparents used to be excited for their grandkids to come over because they could see them, but then now they just come out the front door and they hand their laptops and their phone and their like electronic devices and say, it doesn't work, just fix it. You know what I'm saying? That is America. That TV commercial where all the boomers are coming out as their grandchildren come to visit and they're just handing them their laptops and saying, can you fix this? I feel that is the Biden presidency. Like all of this silliness we're dealing with right now is just the death rattle of an old way of doing things. Does that make sense, Cody?
Oh, no, not really, honestly, but
what, man, you say nothing I say makes sense. How does that not make sense?
Well, sorry, maybe just a bit, maybe perhaps you get a bit verbose and I lose the point. What was it you were saying exactly?
That all of this silliness that we're dealing with Biden is demonstrative of an old way of doing things that is just going down the tubes. I think this whole I'm going to pick a female president of color.
Okay, no, I don't agree with that at all.
Is I think identity politics is going to die with the boomers and the Gen Xers. I think it's we're so diverse now.
Wait, I've been consistent on this for a while.
Yeah.
This is how I felt the entire time. It's how I'm going to feel until I think things are changing.
Okay.
The Democratic Party currently has poor leadership. Apparently, they were not ready for Obama to get out of the White House and transfer over. They had no one recruited to do anything.
Yeah.
Why do you think a lot of these progressives pop up that the Democrats hate that are winning offices from them? Because they have no young candidates. None of them. They have no young talent in the Democratic Party. They threw all of them at the VP. Now, any young ones they did, all of them ran for president for some reason. That was the first red flag I had. I mean, I'm not some 90-year-old former CEO, but I'm pretty sure If you're trying to develop talent in anything, having all of them compete against each other when they're not ready is a bad idea. And people in charge would be like, you know what? You guys shit this one out. It does zero good to have a Pete Buttigieg and even like a Kamala Harris that's like, why are you running right now? Why? For what? Because America needs me? Like Beto O'Rourke. They probably didn't care about him. He's a loser. Like,
I forgot about Beto.
Yeah, think about the average age of the people who started in the primary and then who was left. It was a very young field at the beginning. Kirsten Gillibrand. Why did she run for president? Why didn't someone in leadership tell her, you're not going to win, don't do it? Because there appears to be no leadership. It's one of the reasons why the Republicans are in the White House right now. Trump's the leader because he's the president, just how it works. When Obama was in the White House, it's kind of, you could see how easy it is. How easy was it for the Democratic Party when they had Obama in the White House? Because Obama, say whatever you want about the guy, he's definitely a leader. Definitely knows how to get things done. He definitely has an idea of how, like, what's funny is the biggest thing I've noticed in politics is probably the same. It's literally just someone to enforce standards. Someone to say, I'm not going to let this kind of stuff go on under my watch. Apparently doesn't exist in the Democratic Party. It doesn't exist. There's none. They can do whatever they want. You can just primary each other, run against each other.
Okay.
Sorry, it just drives me crazy. It's the party in shambles. So they've turned to their last ditch, which is just to be like, yeah, which is basically to turn a spear on their constituents and just say, you have to vote for us.
Yeah.
We tried reasoning with you. It didn't work. Now you have to. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
But the pitches have turned to Biden has to win because if Trump wins, the consequences are too bad.
Yeah.
Which, wow, very convenient for Democrats. How convenient for you. You don't even have to convince me to vote for you. Yeah. I just have to. It's imperative. The country's at stake. You have no arguments as to anything you'll do. What will Biden do in office? People actually get from operatives. Who cares? You see what they say. I don't ask them, but you see people say, what will Biden do? And they're like, doesn't matter. Whatever he does won't be as bad as Trump.
Yeah.
Why do we just accept that Biden, this is the way it has to be. The Democratic Party has to just be on fire, but must win because Trump's so bad. Why can't the Democratic Party just be in a position of relative strength? Just a position where you look at the party and you're like, well, at least they got their house in order. Maybe it's not, like the strongest party of all time, but they have their house in order.
Yeah. Probably
not going to have people, sniping at each other all the time. It's probably going to be able to maintain their composure. Probably have plans. But no. What do we get? We get every young talent they have run for president. None of them win. By the way, none of them are talked about being for VP. They're just out. What was the point? What was the point of this entire 2020 election for the Democratic Party? I don't know. I really don't know what their plan was. It feels like they have literally zero leadership. Honestly, it feels like in professional sports when that once-in-a-lifetime MVP generational player leaves the team and they're the worst team in the league for the next 10 years because they just realized, holy cow, having the right person in the right spot really helped us for those years. Yeah. I mean, they did about a decade, right? 8 years. It kind of stretches to 9 almost. But 8 years really under Obama and what he had done. Yeah. And whether he had good or bad thoughts or good or bad opinions, he definitely knew how to lead his party. And it showed. The Democrats, for the most part, were in line more. And now it's just a party in disarray. It's crazy, man. It's the reason why I bring them up and talk about Democrats so much is because, again, the Republican Party has the never Trump wing, which hates Trump, and then the Trump wing, and they're going about it. And I've known who Trump's VP would be for the last 4 years, right? I mean, you look at the Democrats, and it's just people were asking Joe Biden. People were doing there was people on Twitter doing snide Joe Biden better drop out for his own sake now. And in 2020, in February of this year, and he just wins the prize.
Yeah.
Sorry, I still can't get over that.
Well, actually,
I still can't get over
he hasn't even won the primary yet.
Well, no, but you know
it
what
was,
I mean.
the assumptive.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone else could beat him anymore.
Yeah, so we got, because so many, it's one of those things where it happened, it was perceived as inevitable. And technically now, you're right. They couldn't hold enough primaries to give enough delegates. So, it's going to be a default nomination. Got a couple of super chats here I'd like to address. JFB says, thoughts on Ben Sass versus Trump Twitter call-outs. What are your thoughts on the Twitter call-outs, Cody?
In general, I don't know. I'm of two minds. I think anybody in office should be beneath them. But clearly it's not the world we live in. It's not beneath people in office to do Twitter barbs, so they just do it.
And Trump, what happened?
I'll pull an article up. We'll go through an article. I had pulled up the tweet from Ben Sass. Ben Sass, This is, by the way, the biggest "I'm not mad" move ever. Is when your totally not mad tweet storm is so big it has to be posted as a screenshot of a note because you can't fit in Twitter. Anyway, Donald. So here's what Ben Sass posted. Let's see if I can pull up for context what Donald Trump had said before that. But Donald Trump basically did what he does, where he calls out one of these when he does the drama in the Republican Party, which it's from the top down, at least for their sake. But it still strikes me as goofy. But anyway, I'll pull it up. We'll go through it. Wow. Thankfully, it doesn't show up right away when I put it in Google. People in Google finally.
Here, well, while you're pulling that up,
I'll have enough restraint not talk about it.
I'll address the other two comments really fast while you're pulling that up. Sly Cactus says, behind every old politician is a young person and tell them their computer mouse does not eat cheese. That's funny. And then here's another comment from Heidi Briona. Says, have you seen the far left recently, Cardin? Identity politics is only getting worse. Yeah, I don't think, but see, I think me and Cody were actually saying almost the same thing. I think it has gotten worse, but not because the crazy people willing to tout the identity politics have gotten stronger, but the gatekeepers who are meant to enforce standards have just gotten weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. You know what I'm saying? I think the Republican Party will be what the Democratic Party is, and as soon as Trump's out of office, whenever that happens. No, it could. It could be that way. I'm not saying it's not. I just have some hope because I see some slightly younger faces. But look, Republicans are retarded. I mean, I was one of those young faces, and they got rid of me. So who knows? Maybe they're smart, actually. But no, hold on. My larger point though is just that even if you have young talent, it's leadership. Even if you have young talent, if you have no leadership, it all gets spoiled. And it all just gets. As far as leadership goes, people that had been Republicans for a while had absolutely split in half over this Trump thing. I think generally conservatism. They just come back to the middle? I mean, back to the middle as far as their party, not left and right ideologically, or do they? I mean, like, this was a big divide. I mean, hold on, just to get to, because the reason I wanted to bring it up is to get to the question here. So Donald Trump tweeted this out earlier. Said, Rhino Ben Sass, who needed my support and endorsement in order to get the Republican nomination for Senate from the great state of Nebraska, has now said that he's got it. Thank you, President. He has gone rogue again. This foolishness plays right into the hands of the radical left Dems. Oh boy. Okay. I believe he was in reference to. Hey, Ben Sass has totally unimpressed me the past 2 or 3 times he's been in the media. And then so Ben Sass wrote a letter back. What did Ben Sass say? Again, like I said, it was a totally "I'm not mad" letter. Like, but whatever. He does the. I'm not a fan of this style of prose. As we've discussed before, I don't think Twitter is the best place to do this. Since you moved our conversation from private to public. Exactly. As soon as I read stuff like that, it sucks. Even if you make a good point, you come out like that, like, I tried to be civil, but now I have to go public. Blow me. We're already public, man. Yeah. You're posting it on Twitter. Get over yourself. It's just very self-indulgent. Anyway, he says, I understand you've been frustrated that I didn't join your re-election committee. And he wrote, sincerely yours, Jim Rat. Well, that's in reference to a previous Trump tweet. It's just, why can't you start with here? I understand you've been frustrated I didn't join your re-election committee. Again, this is largely what I feel like. I would hope our elected officials would start their addresses this way. Mr. President, I understand you've been frustrated. Just because you're an adult, just because you're not playing game, because it's not something about snide jabs at people. I don't know. I'm on the younger end of adult. I thought when you're a well-functioning, adult, you generally try to get by without acting like a child, but maybe not. Maybe the older you get, the younger we act. I don't know. He mentions that none of my disagreements are personal. He says that, but he says none of my disagreements are personal, and then he references a Donald Trump jab tweet from like 3 years ago. Okay. I believe they have it here. How funny is that? These attacks aren't personal. Signed, Jim Rat. Dude, the president called him a Jim Rat in 2016. Sorry. I get very frustrated reading about politician beefs on Twitter because I would hope that they had better things to do than write nasty notes to each other to screen grab and tweet to each other. Again, one thing I will say though, when it always works bad, it always works good for everybody, but again, whether Trump is morally good or bad, he's better at Twitter than people like this. You think, does Donald Trump have to screenshot notes on his phone because he can't cram these? Donald Trump knows how to use 280 characters. Ben Saskey doesn't. Anyway, though, he just goes through and he mentions that he just basically says that Trump's stupid and he's good. I'm not even gonna read that whole thing. I mean, that's what I mean. Nothing personally against Ben Sass. It's just seeing politicians act this way does bother me. He says, now on the topic that you had made this week, he said mad.
Look at that, man. You write this whole thing. Dude, when you have a little red line, it says, now on top of you have mad this weekend. No president, whether named Obama or Trump or Biden or AOC, has unilateral power to rewrite immigration law or to cut taxes or to raise taxes. It's because America doesn't have kings. Under our Constitution, we're supposed to have public servants. What a joke. Yeah, tell me which one of these people's public servant. Article 1, folks who pass laws, and Article 2, presiding officer who executes those laws. Article 3, judges who have to
like
put
a
on
civics class.
I can tell you one thing, man. This is more what I want to say. This is more my point to this stuff. Clearly, when Donald Trump called Ben Sass Jim Rat a couple years ago, he remembered because he brought it back up here in this thing. The bigger thing is, when I'm reading this doesn't feel like a letter addressed to Donald Trump. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
What, you have to explain to Donald Trump how Article 1, like, I think he understands. Like, this doesn't make any sense as a actual address to Donald Trump. What this makes sense as is like a wrestling promo, as something you direct at a person, but you're really directing it to the audience for a reason, to get them to do something, maybe vote for. Maybe he's writing this letter so voters read it and vote for Ben Sass. That's what I think. That's why I can't hate him too much.
It's a horrible
I get why.
promo, though. That's a horrible promo. It's a boring promo.
He obviously thinks it's a different thing, but that's just my take on this. I feel like that's why politicians do this. Personally, I hate it. I don't like seeing Trump do it. I don't like seeing any of these people do it. I would like to think it's beneath them, but here we are. But yeah, I mean, like, a lot of the times you're addressing, a lot of these things work as wrestling promos, and the fact of what I mean is that it's addressed as a question or as a statement towards somebody, but really it's an appeal to the crowd. You're speaking to the crowd. Clearly, I mean, like, some of these things, as we've discussed before, I don't think Twitter's... Why would you have to say it's Donald Trump? He knows you've discussed it before. He's him. Yeah. You've discussed it with him before. A lot of this stuff, it really does work as just performative is the word I'm looking for. The performative displays to get attention. Hey, you know what? One of my favorite wrestling minds wrote a book called Controversy Creates Cash. That was his whole thing. It ended up running his company into the ground. It was bad for him in the long run. But people understand this. It's the same thing as the old meme. What's the meme? That Twitter's a game where you get points for making people mad, and whoever has the most points wins. I mean, like, this notion that saying things that generate responses one way or the other is a good idea makes people do it, but I don't know. There's just part of me that likes to think someone's elected to office because, okay, look, I'm like, here's the thing that drives me crazy that I just can't stand at all about these politicians. Like he mentioned, public servant. Yeah. Public servant. It drives me crazy. Is the fact that none of these people seem to, for one goddamn second, have any of the weight of the people they represent on their shoulders at all.
That's true.
They're like, what is it? Like Congress and Senate, it's just like, we're not meeting for a month. We're not meeting for a couple of weeks. We're on vacation.
Yeah.
Oh, that bill you guys need for all the relief stuff didn't get passed on our time. Sorry. Yeah. Like, there isn't one person staying up late at night like, holy cow, man, I'm going to be flying home on vacation and my constituents won't be able to, they'll be evicted. They won't be able to pay their bills. They won't be able to feed themselves. Do any of these people think that for 1 second? It's getting harder to believe any of them do. Yeah. I feel like they're all just going like, woof, glad work's over. Glad I'm getting time off. Yeah. It's not time off work, dude. You're on vacation from your apparently important job. Yeah. Like, what is it? Is it an important job they do there, or can they just take off for a few weeks whenever they want? What is it? One or the other, right?
Yeah. I think
Can Walmart just have its staff take off for a few weeks? Hey, whatever, guys. Not on our timetable. No one can go to Walmart for 3 months.
No, I think your sentiment is shared by the vast majority of the American public. I mean, what you just said right there. It was interesting, Cody. Remember when I watched, when he was still alive, Andrew Breitbart had an interview with Adam Carolla that was hilarious, in which Adam Carolla basically said, he had this rant about why living in Los Angeles sucked and, why the governance was so bad and so on and so forth. And Breitbart said, if you would just do that as a campaign stump speech, you'd have like 85% of the Republican primary behind you, right? I think in the same vein, what you literally just said and that general sentiment of they don't have our backs, okay, is shared by the vast majority of the American public. And to a certain extent, I think that is still Donald Trump's biggest appeal for re-election and will still be the biggest bane and the biggest deterrent towards people getting on board with Joe Biden is because he's just we still have that mentality, that earthquake of 2016 of I want an outsider. I don't want the system. The system has sucked for 20 years. There's guys my age that are like, in my adult life, I've never had, like, Donald Trump is the greatest president of my adult life. Like, that is the bar. A reality show host is the bar right now. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get to experience a JFK. I didn't get to experience a Ronald Reagan. I didn't get to experience a Teddy Roosevelt or an Abraham Lincoln or a George Washington. All right. I didn't get to experience any of the great presidents. I've got nothing but this garbage, this neocon, neoliberal garbage since then. So yeah, I want something that's not this boomer, neocon, neoliberal system. And still, to this day, 4 years later, the image and the persona of Donald Trump as an outsider looking to fix and amend a broken system appeals to that feeling that comes up from somebody's gut and their heart when they go to vote. Okay? This idea that Donald Trump can change the system because the system isn't working for me. It is when you put that up against, oh, well, Joe Biden, you're not convincing these people that Donald Trump is the most dangerous president ever, that he's the most hyperbolic statement A, B, or C ever. They feel like the system is failing them and Joe Biden is part of that system. So I need something from outside of that system, anything outside of that system. And so your feeling that you're saying right now, I think is exactly the biggest predictor. And it's that intangible predictor. It can't be measured in percentage points. It's like love. How can you tell your wife, oh, I love you, 95.6 today? Yesterday it was 98.9, but that last week when we were arguing, it was 61.4. You can't do that. It's just a feeling. You sense it when you get into the room. You sense it in a conversation when you're with a person. If you're a public speaker, you sense the sentiment in the room. It's like this intangible ether that you pick up on, and is the reason why the Greeks called charisma the gift of the gods, because the charismatic speaker can pick up on the sensitivities of that ether, right? And so you saying what you said, Cody, is the exact reason why I think the Biden presidency is going to be a massive disappointment, because they still haven't figured out yet how to quantify emotional voting. So the reason why Biden is so high in the polls right now is because when you call and you're pissed off because there's riots everywhere, the economy sucks, things are going bad, and you've been hearing daily how big of a disappointment Donald Trump is, and so on and so forth, then yeah, of course you're going to say, oh, if the election were held today, who would you vote for, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? You might be like, I'll give Biden a chance, But these polls aren't getting to everybody. I think most people are still afraid to even admit it. Like, I get called by polls now, and I don't answer half the polls I did before, because I'm like, I don't know what information this is going to get out to. I don't want to get hunted down by psychos, you know what I'm saying, who want to persecute me for my political beliefs. So I think the average person either doesn't participate or lies, but they got that feeling that you just articulated. And when the real poll comes around and voting day actually happens and you actually have to pull the lever, I don't think that feeling's gone away. And the system is failing us. Joe Biden is of the system. So whatever candidate is out of the system, I think will still win. And despite all of his flaws, Donald Trump has still maintained that I'm not part of the system visage, shall we say, that I think forebodes his re-election. Almost inevitable, man. I got to get to some of these super chats. That makes sense, Cody? Or are you just going to say that one was the third craziest stupid thing you've heard all day?
Well, no, I disagree, but I guess it makes sense.
Your mic's not on. Yeah.
It makes sense. I disagree, but it makes sense.
Okay. So, what do you think will happen? Before I get these super chats, what do you think? Where do I go wrong?
It just I think you're a bit once again a bit quixotic, would that be the word? And your and your take on this.
Okay.
There's a bunch of people who probably are going to say, like, here's the other thing is, and I don't want to be too flippant here a little bit, but, like, people were fans of the Cubs for 100 years, man. They never won the World Series. Like, there's people that are going to be like, look, I know Democrat Party sucks right now. I get it, but, I still prefer and vote for them. Like, that's going to exist. It's just...
Well, that's the 1/3.
I don't know if it's 1/3. It might be
there's 1/3 that's always against you no matter what. There's 1/3 that's always for you no matter what. It's all about that middle third.
Oh, I forgot life's that simple. I have to always look for the thirds. No, I mean, like, that legitimately could be enough people to win the election. So I don't know. I don't want the other. I might be a little bit quixotic myself in the sense that I truly do believe that the hyper heightened, crazy, fervorous political discussion is loud, but doesn't make up the majority of it. I think most people are still going to vote, and they're just going to be kind of like, I normally vote for this. I normally vote red or blue. I guess I'll vote red or blue again. I think there's a certain amount of people who seek out all the information and yell at each other all the time, who always see each other, and they assume. I mean, it's kind of like the idea of, like, at a certain point, the English must have just assumed that every Frenchman looked like a soldier, right? When they're at war for 100 years. Because that's what you see all the time, you know? I think if you're actually, when we get to the actual election, the majority of people still don't pay attention to any of this stuff. They're not reading all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
They really are just going about their day. It's not like, I do think it's funny, this novel concept, people think the news is lying to them. People have been, news is full of liars, probably forever. I mean, it's, we had a stream not too long ago. We went through and just some quotes that they had on Wikipedia. But quotes, not someone's opinion on Wikipedia. Quotes taken as to how yellow journalism was described 100 years ago. And it was largely what our media would be described as today. Big focus on personal interest and social injustices. Big focus on holding government accountable. All good stuff, but when you only focus on it, it can drive people crazy. And they know that. They've done it before. So,
all right, we got a couple of super chats.
Sorry, get to those.
Nathan Butcher says, if victorious, will Biden swear his oath of office on a copy of White Fragility? That would be hilarious.
I'd probably swear it on the thing.
The what thing?
That's the one Biden flub that annoyed me the most. I'm not even a religious person, but when he was talking,
Bible?
No, he said, he was something along the lines of, I think he was referring to under God or something along those lines, and he stopped himself and went, the thing. The thing? What do you mean? We know the thing. Like, Jesus, man. That's... I don't even jump down Biden's throat for, like, little flubs he makes here and then, because it's not the biggest deal. Like, if our president accidentally says Alabama instead of Arkansas, and it's like, oh, well...
I don't care about stuff like
that.
that.
If they make good decisions aside from that, I don't care. That was just the one where I'm like, damn, dude, that just looks bad. I'm not religious. I can imagine to anyone who was watching it, they'd be like, the thing? That's how Biden talks about God is, the thing. I don't know. Sorry. That was the one. That's why that was the background of the joke. So I don't know if you have to explain it's bad, but whatever.
So my melanated scope continues and says, hey guys, so we had a crazy night in Chicago yesterday, looting, people shooting at cops, stayed in downtown and out of the neighborhoods this time. Yeah, man. Chirac is crazy right now. I think it's crazy right now. I hope you're okay, my melanated scope. And he continues. Thank you for another super chat. Says the magnificent mile didn't look too magnificent today. They stole Teslas and hit all of the high-end fashion stores, Gucci, Prada, etc. banks. Yeah. Look, go down Melrose in Los Angeles. Go down Melrose in Los Angeles.
Did you?
It's a freaking post-apocalyptic movie. Go down Fifth Avenue in New York.
Did you see what happened specifically last night in Chicago, though?
Hit it. No, I didn't.
Okay, I didn't know anything queued up immediately, but what I can queue up, and
I've read some articles. I haven't seen any like riot porn videos or anything like that.
But what I want to get to too, and the part of this stuff that no one ever wants to talk about because it's boring, which is what happens later. Everyone wants to get in semantic arguments of what you should call what you're seeing, but no one wants to talk about what does it mean, right? What does it mean when this stuff happens? So really quickly, I'm just trying to I had something pulled up a minute ago that had some of the some videos and images of just the aftermath, so to speak, which is just kind of what you could see after the fact of what happened last night in Chicago. believe this is what I'm looking for. Let me see. Yes, I think it was Daily Mail had it. Now, what's really interesting and really sucks about this, and it's the part that nobody ever wants to talk about. Here you can see some images. See if I can resize it better for you guys. Here's a vehicle that plowed through the window.
Jeez.
Let's see. What did this window plow through? I think that was a high-end store. Have any more? Yeah, here we go. Here's some people in Nordstrom. Here is a video of the aftermath of what was going on in the shopping center down there. People being detained. I think that's the end of the photos. So here we go. You can see, look at this. You're speaking of Louis Vuitton. They're boarding up the Louis Vuitton store.
Jeez.
Magnificent Mile you're speaking of. The Timberland store that got broken into, Giorgio Armani. I mean, these aren't places that carry cheap merchandise. I mean, look at this. I mean, it was, now that's the picture I wanted to hold on. This is where I wanted to get to. What does it mean? I don't live in Chicago. Spoilers. I don't know if you guys didn't know that or not. I don't live in Chicago.
Did they live?
I've never been to Chicago. I want you guys to watch this, but I imagine there are people who do live in Chicago. I imagine the majority of people who live in Chicago, they don't own a Gucci store, they don't own a Versace store, and they're not in the streets looting. I imagine that's the majority of people who live in Chicago. This is a video of the bridges and just the... Sorry, 1 second. I need to find really quickly wherever the audio is playing, because I want to play the audio really quickly on this as well. But
okay, hit it.
Wow, sorry. I gotta mute everything because audio's playing somewhere on something and I don't know where. But
President, have you picked a running mate yet? Yeah, I have.
There we go. It's the Biden one on the bike. I got
Yeah.
it. Look at that, smart guy. But yikes! Hey, we're live. Anyway, though, check out this video, man. I could not imagine what it. And I understand people don't necessarily live in this part of Chicago. It's like the downtown area.
Yeah.
But I think some people might
It's
live
like the
there.
Narrows in Batman.
But just look at how eerie this is. This was last night. This is them raising the bridges as they're preparing. We saw the aftermath. All the bridges going up. No one's getting in. The reason why I wanted to bring that up is because I saw a photo posted not too long ago. See if I can pull this up for you guys. This is a photo that was posted at 6:11 p.m. So what? Pacific. Real time. Not too long ago by Armando Sanchez, of the bridges, majority of the bridges, or several of the bridges, still up in the city of Chicago.
Wow.
As the sun continues to set. And again, the reason I want to bring this up is because it's one thing to look at the pictures of smashed businesses. Yes, it's very unfortunate for whoever owns those businesses. Very unfortunate for, because again, it's not always like Versace. Like someone owns the actual business, like the actual building. That looked like a part of town was pretty wealthy. But there's the thing. This is an article from today. Chicago Sun-Times. Access to downtown Chicago restricted 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. after widespread looting. Heavy police presence will continue throughout the downtown area today and until further notice. Love that one. The curfews and the increased police presence continue into further notice. Now, these curfews and these increased police presence, they don't apply to just specifically the people that were out there last night doing this stuff. They apply to everyone who lives in Chicago. The bridge wasn't magically lowered for people who weren't doing this stuff and raised for the rioters. It was lowered and raised for everyone.
Yeah.
And this gets to the point where someone was asking, I think it was actually one of the super chats right there, asking about the impact that some of this, just the stuff going on around the country could have on the election. I have to imagine people begin to become unsympathetic to causes remarkably quickly. It's about as soon as it starts negatively impacting their life. And Chicago, as you pointed out, Chicago is a city with some leadership problems in general, right?
Yeah, for 100 years.
But I don't live in Chicago, and please let me know people in chat who do. How normal of a sight is it to see the bridges in the downtown just up? How normal is it to see stuff like this happening? How normal is it to have lockdowns? Or lockdowns, curfews. I mean, 8 p.m. curfew. Not the whole city, just downtown. Because this stuff, it does impact everyone who lives there. And everyone knows this stuff. It's kind of hard not to notice the bridge being raised. Yeah. It's a lot easier for the bridge being raised to inconvenience someone to make that point to them than it is for anyone doing anything in the streets to make their point to them.
Yeah.
So that's what I see. I mean, check this out. For several hours Monday morning, bus and train service was suspended in the area bordered by Fullerton and Ashland Avenues and Cermak Road, CTA said. Later Monday morning, CTA services were restored. Does the person who was waiting for their bus and it didn't come because there was riots and burning in the city or looting in the city the night before think they care about anything other than people inconvenience them? Really, no. That's about where most people start being concerned, is when they're inconvenienced. Yeah. And so I was thinking, because the stuff that happens at night, it's its own thing. Trust me, I don't want to belittle and just say it doesn't matter. But what I always look at is what happens after. What does it lead to? My joke's the French Revolution. Revolution fought to get rid of tyrants. How did it end? Well, they coronated the first emperor, Napoleon. Yeah. And I mean, what it was, what the verbiage around it is, like, arguing over what's the proper words to use for, are they rioters, are they looters, are they demonstrators, are they protesters? How about this? Are there curfews the next night? Are the bridges going up, and how do people feel about it?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe people in Chicago are like, bridges to downtown happens all the time. Don't care. Curfews, whatever. I'm not going there anywhere. No skin off my back. Maybe that's what people feel. I have to imagine, though, people being told they can't go to part of town because people came through and stole everything the night before, so they have to lock it down. They're not going to be too happy to hear it.
So when My Melanated Scope says, how will riots, looting, and protest where there's violence, police or demonstrators play out in the polls in November, help or hurt Trump? You're saying... And by the way, polling data suggests that you are 100% correct. The average American is far more sympathetic than the average, Frenchman, Croatian. I mean, sympathetic to political causes basically defines the average American. But they also have a stark drop-off on support once things start going violent. And I think that's why the press for so long was trying to call them peaceful protesters. I think that's why for so long they're trying to glamorize the violent left because, you have to maintain that image to the American public that this isn't just a bunch of violence. But
here's the video of the car smashing into the...
Dude, look at that. Boom. Hardcore. But yeah, see, that's the thing, is in every major city.
By the way, that car is worth like $40,000 to $60,000, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at this.
It's being used as a battering ram.
Yeah.
And maybe 30 a little bit, but still, my point.
Yeah. Well, and every major city is going through this right now. Every major city of every municipality is going through this. So I don't see how you can only put lipstick on a pig once. You can only paint over rust once, or else people start getting wise to it. And I don't see how. I don't see how they can't. The rust is going to bubble out from underneath the paint job before November.
Well, one thing I've always thought was interesting, though, this notion that and again, I think social media has done that. It's trained people they can reframe things and reword things and kind of control reality that way, I guess.
Yeah.
Here's my point, is when I see a video and it's like one group is forming a shield wall and the other group is throwing tear gas at them and you say it's a protest, I'm a lot less concerned about anything else other than when I'm hearing, you say that long enough, when you write protest in a sentence, I think, oh, people with clubs and in armor throwing things at each other. Because that's just how they always describe it. At a certain point, what does protest mean? What does it really mean? If protest is the word we use for when people show up to light things on fire and blow things up and fight the government, then pretty soon it's going to be there's a joke from Arrested Development where one of the characters is he's a psychological analyst and a therapist. He's one of the only ones. So he combines it together to be an analropist.
Okay.
And so I'm sure you can imagine what an analropist looks like written down. So he hands a business card to somebody, and somebody looks at the business card, and they kind of give him a look, and he goes, oh, no. It's pronounced analropist. And he's like, it wasn't really the pronunciation that had been concerning me. That's what I think is happening in the media. As people look at a video of a car smashing through windows. People weren't calling protest as much that kind of stuff, but they'll show a video of Portland, for example, which is not an absurd, but it's an extreme. But they'll show video clips of Portland or pictures. This is my favorite one. I want to pull some up and show you guys this one. This is one of the weirdest headlines I had ever read. Let's see if I can pull it up. Oh, come on. Why can't I pull this up? From the New York Times. Here we go. They wrote a headline saying, Peaceful protesters with room for rage sympathize with aggressive tactics. And they show this picture. Again, my point is, at a certain point, it's like they can keep saying, no, it's pronounced peaceful protester, and people can go, it's not the pronunciation I'm concerned with, man. I don't want this happening. How about people don't have shields and crude armor and try to fight people in military fatigues behind fences? Really? We can't have any more civil... There's no more civil way to deal with these people's disagreements than to have this happen. And if there isn't, stop using the word protest, because here's the thing. A lot of things can be handled more civilly than this. Generally, there'll be something like a protest, and it doesn't look like this. So at a certain point, they'll win. They'll convince me what a peaceful protest really is not that unlike a line battle fought by, like tribes in Gaul 1,000 years ago, where it's not. Clearly, protests aren't like that. Really, ever. I can prove it to you by the fact that when it isn't like that, they write news articles about it and shove cameras there. People wouldn't be going to Portland to record what's happening there if it was a normal thing. I mean, it's the fact that this is happening now. It happening in Portland isn't that weird, but this was the bigger blunder from the media I saw was, why do you want to put this picture and the word protester on someone's head?
Yeah.
I got a better one. I don't like to always do this. Just kidding a little bit, but no, I'm serious. I don't like to always self-promote our Twitter account, but this one that was crazy, man. And I want to see if I can pull this up for you guys. There was the mayor of Portland. He said in a speech that what was going on in the streets during the riots was attempted murder. It wasn't protesting. Here we go. So the LA Times goes the protester route, and they end up with this headline. Portland mayor says protesters are attempting to commit murder and helping Trump's re-election campaign. Attempting to commit murder. Why do you want to put the word protester? Why do you want to put in your readers' heads? Because, by the way, this is another way to word it, which... Oddly enough, Fox News went with the fair way to word it. Portland mayor condemns rioters for attempting to commit murder. How does it do any good? It's like people have so dug in to everyone in Portland is just a protester, even if it has to go next to attempting to commit murder.
Yeah.
How does it help anybody at a certain point, are you going to have to ask, is this one of those attempting murder protests or a real protest? It just always bothered me.
Hey.
Calling them riots doesn't do a disservice to the movement. Calling them protests does. Because anybody out there not doing stuff that makes people look at it and go, God, I need to get a gun. Nobody should ever see a protest and say, wow, I should buy a gun. Yeah. If that's what people are reacting, they know if they're saying isn't a protest. It's just so goofy to me to write articles. Peaceful protesters with room for rage? Why? So when I think peaceful protesters, I have to remember that these people have room for rage and sympathize with aggressive tactics. Thank you, New York Times. Our protesters across the world will thank you for writing articles like this. Yeah. Telling us that a peaceful remember, they're peaceful protesters, but they do have room for rage and they sympathize with aggressive. What the hell is this?
Well, I was literally saying,
absurd, man.
Throw up that title one more time. I mean, by the way, we're about to wrap up here, guys. So if you got any more super chats, get them out of your system. If you got any last burning questions, make sure that you throw them up in the chat. But Cody, look at that. Peaceful protesters with room for rage.
Yeah, why?
Okay, so if that's how we describe rioter, what's another nefarious position out there? Murderer? So how about this? Or no, let's just say it's a violent crime, but a crime of passion. You know what I'm saying? So peaceful lovers with room for throat slitting or however, you do it. You could use that little formula. If you want to call it an arsonist, you could say,
fire enthusiast.
Yeah. Peaceful, peaceful fire enthusiast with room for accelerants.
Yeah. My larger point is, though, why is the media putting it into people's heads that groups of peaceful protesters, when they do exist and they are peaceful, actually maybe have room for rage and they maybe sympathize with aggressive tactics? Again, to me, it's like giving someone the analrapist card. You can tell them it means whatever they think it means. They're going to look at it and say, get the hell out of here, man.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. I'm not looking for this. No. It's the real world example is, this gets to, because I see a lot of people say, and one thing I think is funny is there's a lot of people I think, and actually, I mean this with great offense. I see a lot of people out there without the spine to admit that they're not protesting and they are going out there doing something more than this.
Yeah.
They don't have the backbone to say, you know what? Because it's funny. They'll say this. government should be destroyed, dismantled. It should burn down. And then they're like, but what do you mean we're not protesting?
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. Protesters don't have violent coups. That's something else. If you want to be that, do it.
Yeah.
If you want to be a revolutionary, be a damn revolutionary. I don't care. But being revolutionary, right, until someone calls you out for it, and then you say, but I'm just protesting. It's like, that. Fine. If you call revolution protest now, then I don't like it anymore. I mean, it's a weird word game to take. Because I think I have to... It can go a million ways. From my perspective that I have, and from just the way I look at it, I do feel like more people would see pictures of violence, and then just whatever words that they see associated with those pictures of violence have a negative connotation. And if the word peaceful, not peaceful, forget peaceful, if the word protester is next to images of violence enough, people will start to have a sour opinion of protester. Because they know whenever they hear protest, like at a certain point, they know what it means. People are like, oh, protests are coming, okay. Let's board the windows up. We know what this means. And that's bad to do.
Well, yeah, and Cody, this is one of the last things I'll say before we wrap up here. My grandpa, the same one that was the World Series of Poker champion I was telling you about, he was also the champion of the state of Utah for chess. He was a big-time avid chess player. So every once in a while we'd sit down and we'd play chess. And what's interesting was I remember there was a game we were playing in which I saw that I could attack his knight, and I took his knight, and then he took mine. And then I had a chance to take out one of his bishops, and he'd be able to take mine. And then he looked at me and said, oh, you're going to play that way, huh? And he literally looked at me and says, in a war of attrition, you will always lose. You know, just sacrificing one card for another, you know, you'll always lose. So he looked at me and he said, in a war of attrition, you will always lose. And these riots are fueled by a bad ideology mixed with unemployment. So you may have thought that your chess move was hurting the economy because Trump's biggest claim to fame is the economy. Okay. Or, you know, your virtue signal is putting in some kind of draconian measure to show how much you care, or whatever brownie points you want to score to the left. That these places where these riots are happening, it's like there's this war of attrition. The government is keeping everything closed and keeping people unemployed, so then they riot, and that chess piece is just taken back. And this won't go away until the economy's opened up, because it is fueled by despair and unemployment, which allows the most angry and violent aspects of our society to thrive. So we're literally just moving chess pieces around because people are thinking, oh, if we can stay closed until November, then we got a chance of taking out Trump. And it's like, wow, your hatred is literally forcing you into a war of attrition, and you will always lose in a war of attrition.
Well, I think I'm wrapping up. We'll get into this in a little tease. I want to do a stream talking about this with you. I want to do more streams like this, where one of us will come up with just some theory, and then we'll just talk about it for like an hour. But my theory is this.
Okay.
What we're seeing in the streets with the kind of because again, like, there was plenty of peaceful protests, and people just didn't cover them as much because they're boring and nothing really happens.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, they cover them, but it's just like there isn't. Sorry, fires, explosions, and melee battles, they bump. People walked around. Yeah. But my point is, it's almost like the left won the internet, because most internet institutions predominantly left-wing thought. And I mean, this is like
the left won everything. The universities, the internet.
Like, if there is like a cultural, I want to say even like a war, but like a back and forth, right? At times a culture will be more conservative. At times it'll be more, liberal or whatever. It'll go both ways. But is it more extra right now? It's kind of moving towards either conservative or progressive, kind of ping-ponging. But anyway, if I was on the internet, it seems like the more progressive wing won completely.
Yeah.
They've completely driven.
The culture war was won by the left, 100%.
My point is this. The Milo Yiannopoulos are gone. The Sargons are gone. Most people are gone. People that were
or
cultural, right?
deplatformed.
Yeah, but they're gone from the internet, right?
Yeah.
Or they're forced to be very careful in their speech and very precise. People on the right understand. They look and see people that are gone. They're very precise. They withhold a lot of things. They only let on a little bit. For example, people on the right, I have to imagine just how they've been trained to think with how the internet works, with how these platforms work, wouldn't probably say things as crazy as, I don't care if Joe Biden killed my kids and ate them, I'd still vote for him. Yeah. There'd just be a sense of like if I show my power level, so to speak, I'll be banned.
No, I grow up.
Yeah, but the word, sorry, I just want to get to my point, and then but the kind of based around the idea of like optics. People on the right wing of the internet are obsessed with optics. Everything has to be good optics because they know there's a lot of people in the media who rightfully will come after them. So they'll always have optics in mind. But because of the way these platforms have shifted to a more progressive base, like progressive middle, right? And progressive's middle, nothing's really to the left of it, and something can be to the right of it. But what ends up happening is optics considerations have gone out the window. For example, if a bunch of people were trying to get together to get right-wing political activism together, they would probably try to police violence within it very, very severely. Because they know optics are a big... If they do anything wrong, it will be made an example of. They'll go to jail. Optics are big to them, and they've been kind of, whipped into this like optics position. But the left's the opposite. There's no optics. Doesn't matter what you do. The internet's kind of on your side a little bit here. And again, like culturally, I'm not saying in literal sense, right? So there's no considerations for optics. They'll just say whatever. They'll blurt any weird thought they have in their head out. They're not going to be ran off any of these platforms. Yeah. No idea they have can be too crazy. No opinion they have can be too incorrect. So it creates a culture where people realize they'll go outside and they'll be like, they'll go outside and do crazy things. They'll be caught on video saying crazy things. They'll tweet crazy things. They'll never apologize because it's just like, that's not a consideration to me. The only problem is when that leaves the internet. And it's not a video on the internet, and it's, I can't get downtown tonight because there's a curfew. Yeah. It changes.
Well, that's also
why...
The
optics, all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about optics on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube is gone. You have to worry about optics in real life. If someone sees you doing something objectionable, they'll probably bring it up. You probably can't just dominate anybody who disagrees with you of what you did was objectionable or not. And I think that what we're seeing in these protests is kind of that clash.
You really bring a good point where you say, what happens when it leaves the internet? I mean, look at who the most violent people are. I mean, you saw the mugshots of the first 7 out of 11 Antifa protesters who were arrested in Portland. 7 out of 11 of them were teachers, people my age, okay, who've never been forced to grow up. They've gone from leftist indoctrination camp high schools into leftist indoctrination camp colleges, into academia, which was overtaken by leftism in the 60s, into a master's program, so they make more money as a teacher, okay, that's hyper leftist. Their entire lives, they've always been able to say whatever crazy crap they wanted to about white people and never be called racist. They could say whatever crazy crap they wanted to about economics, and they would never be called fascist. They could say whatever crazy crap they want about anything, and they'll never be called ist, because it's a one-way street. And Dana Perino, who was Bush's press secretary, said it really well. She said, I don't think there's any Republican out there that doesn't feel like the second they start speaking, or any conservative, she said, I'm sorry, because there's a difference between conservatives and Republicans. But she said, I don't think there's any conservative out there that hasn't gotten well accustomed to the idea that anytime you open your mouth, you are fighting an uphill battle. And so you all of a sudden have a two-sided argument in which one side is always used to a tailwind, fighting a downhill battle. And then the other side is used to fighting an uphill battle. Which one is going to be more psycho in how they protest? Which one's going to be more psycho? The Second Amendment rally? Oh my gosh, nothing happened. Not a shot fired. The peaceful protest in the Chaz, 3 people killed. You know, it wasn't until we started having leftist rallies here that I started seeing freaking stores boarded up in my hometown. So yeah, I think this is a perfect storm of multiple issues, and your thought, I think, is very wise, hence the name The Oracle. What happens when it leaves the internet? See, and this is why, Cody, I sometimes do think that bad ideas have to be fought the second they're found out, because part of the reason why all this violence is existing in the streets right now, and why I do think that it is a problem that was birthed by boomers, and once the boomers go away, we will start healing within 15 years, is because the boomer mentality was, oh, we have an experience-based business model and leadership model. Oh, well, once they gain experience, their ideas will change. Oh, once all these, high school kids make it into the real world, or once all these college kids make it into the real world, oh, they'll think differently about socialism, and they'll think differently about violence, and they'll grow up and they'll think differently about X, Y, or Z problem. But no, guess what? They didn't. They just took all that psychotic gender studies garbage and all that psychotic leftism that they learned in college into the workplace. That's all that happened. It went with them into the workplace. And then so now we've got all of the crap that we had to deal with in the 80s and 90s on campus, in the 2000s and 2010s and the teens in corporate America now, because they've never been forced to grow up, and there never was a real world that smacked them in the face and said, no, that doesn't work. So,
well, I'm speaking specifically more just about, but specifically the idea of again, the concept of optics as far as political or cultural discussion goes. There seems to be it's hard to explain, but you could just see it. The verbiage people who have right-wing opinions have to use on the internet is very precise, and even then they'll be attacked. People on the left just don't have to deal with it as much, as long as it's the right kind of ideological orthodoxy on it. I'm not saying it's good or bad, just the way it is. I think just one negative it's been for people who are on the more cultural left is that they kind of, on the internet, you do have free reign to say or think of whatever you want, because you mostly can exist in bubbles. Now, people will go out of their bubbles to persecute people on others, but this works on Twitter. It works on Facebook. It works on YouTube. But yeah, again, it gets back to my original point of, if you show somebody a video of two people in black with masks and body armor whacking each other with clubs, and you say this is a protest, people will say, well, then I don't like protests.
Yeah.
And they'll say, why don't you like the First Amendment? They'll say, the First Amendment's fine. You just told me protests are when people in armor hit each other. I don't like that. That's my larger point. It's because when you lose that sense of optics, that sense of other people are going to see what we're doing and perceive it differently. So that must be a consideration that seems to be gone in left-wing cultural activism. It just doesn't exist. This notion that other people may perceive what we're doing in a way outside of our own, and that could be negative to us, just doesn't seem to be there. And it's really bizarre, and I think you see it in stuff like that. You see it in, because I always say, too, the reason why I'm not anybody protesting is awful. What I'm saying is, it's bad for people who actually want to protest and don't want to hurt people when you show videos of people hurting people and say those are the peaceful protesters. Because then it takes all the peaceful people miles away, minding their own business, and might as well put them right in the middle of all that for average readers at home. Yeah. And that's what keeps happening. And again, I think it comes from this just lack of concept of, you don't get to just dominate the message always. You can on Twitter with support of Twitter. You can on Facebook with support of Facebook. You can on YouTube with support of YouTube. You can't just in general. Not yet. Yeah. They can't do it yet. And yeah, that's why people are saying it was funny. You could see there was a support for Black Lives Matter, went up sharply and then went down a bit. And it's because when Black Lives Matter was people walking around holding signs, the support for it was high. Yeah. When Black Lives Matter videos where people were fires and explosions and tear gas, people are like, well, that's bad then. It's because a lot of people don't understand. When they were saying they supported Black Lives Matter, they're not in the brain of every activist and what that means to them. They just mean, oh, yeah, civil rights, ending police brutality, peaceful demonstrations, I support that. That's what they were supporting. They weren't supporting whatever crazy specific version of people thought it was. So when it moved away from that and got specific to specific areas and conflict, and then you ask people again, they say, oh, well, now that it isn't just people, kumbaya holding hands, saying that we need civil rights and police brutality, which is popular issues. It's weird, crazy violence stuff in the streets. So we don't support this anymore. Yeah. And it's because it's not that Black Lives Matter suddenly shifted and became something new. It's because what you told people the Black Lives Matter protests were evolved to the riots going on in Portland. So now they're like, I don't like those. That was the point I was trying to get to. Probably confusing. I apologize. Yeah. That's the point I was trying to get to.
So we're going to end on this super chat right here. My Melanated Scope says, thanks for the show, guys. Chat, don't forget to like the video or else. Thank you for threatening the chat on our behalf. My Melanated Scope. Says also, find cheap Jordans, Gucci, Prada on Facebook Marketplace in Chicago.
Yeah, if you are selling that stuff secondhand, hold it for a while because the prices are going to go down in that area.
That's funny. So this was real and it was fun, Cody, and it was real fun. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We're excited to get back at this again. As my Melanated Scope said, yeah, smash the like button before you guys get out of here. It helps us out a lot. This is Problem Solver Politics. We will see you in the next video.